Hey, you two.
Hey.
Hello, hello.
Long time no talk. It's a fun little behind the scenes. We all go down and we all come back up a second later.
Yeah, we had so much good content that we were just talking about the last 5 or 10 minutes. Hopefully we can remember most of it.
I know, right? It's
that's the
going so
trick.
quickly too with AI.
Yeah.
Everything we talked about 20 minutes ago is no longer relevant. There's
Right?
all new
Yeah, it's
stuff.
old news.
Exactly.
Probably not totally wrong, but yeah, let's hope not.
Right.
Oh yeah, we had a couple of people saying hi. Sarah, hi. Dina, hi. Yeah, welcome everyone. I think we have a lot of people on here today, so that's really exciting. Yeah, please say hi in the comments. Tell us where you're from. I am moderating the conversation. So if you have any questions now or throughout the event, feel free to throw them in the chat and I will try to bring them up in the conversation. And if we don't get to it, just know that we'll follow up afterwards. And then any resources that we mentioned today, we're going to try to post them in the comments of the LinkedIn Live after we wrap. So feel free to just put your notepad down and just be in the conversation. And yeah. So here at Celarity, we do LinkedIn Lives pretty regularly, but I know there's a lot of first-time joiners. So I'll start by introducing myself, and then I'll pass it along to John and Erica. My name is Jamie Duong. I am the Senior Marketing Manager at Celarity, and I am a pretty active AI user, I'd say, both at work and in my personal life. I am no expert, which is why I love having conversations like this. Honestly, I'm really excited to hear what you both have been up to and all that you have to share with all of us AI curious people. So John, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm John Arnold. I'm one of the managing partners at Celarity. So we do staffing and recruiting for marketing and creative folks. So this is right in our wheelhouse. And I'm with you, Jamie. I wouldn't consider myself an expert, but I do use it daily. A variety of different tools that we'll get into. Erica is definitely our expert here that we'll be learning a lot from. So I anticipate that I'm going to learn a lot as well. And I'm seeing some of the comments here. We're not only across the U.S. right now. I saw a couple people from England, so we're international now.
Wow.
Looking forward to this conversation. Yeah.
All right. That's awesome. Well, hello, everybody. I am Erica Hanna. I am the owner of Puke Rainbows Creative, which is a video production company. I am also the creative director of a new AI startup called Camcorder AI. We're looking to change the way that marketers use video with AI technology, which is super exciting. So I've been diving into this realm furiously and learning so much alongside all of you.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you both. This is one of our most attended chats, so I'm really excited. And we were kind of talking before we went live how, and I was certainly kind of fell into this camp, was not super familiar with AI before it made headlines in 2023. And I think there's a lot of people probably that are equating AI and ChatGPT, but that's a very small piece of the AI pie. And I know, Erica, you have a lot of insight there. You've been in the space a lot longer than we have. And so why is it so popular now? And why is everyone talking about AI now? And what already exists in our life that is completely AI that we just kind of overlooked before?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think AI seems like it's a lot popular now just because everybody's talking about ChatGPT, everybody's talking about DALL-E and all these other tools. But really, AI has been integrated into your life for a long time. Siri is AI. It's speech recognition AI. Gmail filters out emails through AI. Tesla, their hardware in their cars uses AI. Amazon, let's see,
The
what else?
Facebook
Netflix.
algorithm.
Yeah, the Facebook algorithm that we all love, right? AI curates your news feed based on your interactions, and then Netflix as well. So to the people that are like, I hate AI, I'll never use it. Surprise!
Using it.
I love that. No, that's a great point.
Yeah, so it's kind of almost been more accessible to more people right now, right, Erica? I mean, we've all been like, it sounds like it's been affecting our lives for a while. but now it's
Yeah.
almost like we all get to like interact with it a little bit more and kind of maybe do what we want with it, right? I mean, why is it so popular right now, in your
Yeah,
opinion?
absolutely. I think part of the reason why it is getting more popular is also because of accessibility when it comes to development of AI. Open AI has made it easier to tap into making your own tools as well.
Mhm.
Whereas 2 or 3 years ago, even it was millions of dollars to develop AI on your own, right? And now
Mhm.
it's all open information. So ChatGPT obviously has caused things to go whoosh because it's so easy to use. I think that's one of the biggest reasons why.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. And as we're talking about ChatGPT, kind of maybe a place to start too is to set the stage that we find ourselves today with that tool specifically. I know when the three of us first started talking about having this event, I mean, what that tool looked like then and now it's just drastically different. And I know a lot of headlines many people have probably seen. The CEO of OpenAI testified before Congress, urging regulation and oversight. I know a lot of technology leaders have kind of come out and said similar statements. Google just recently announced additional like AI tools that they're incorporating into their suite of products. Microsoft, Meta, Snapchat, they're all going to do the same thing too. And then some interesting things about companies, marketers, or industry professionals like us. Almost half of companies are using ChatGPT in some way or another, and 30% more plan to. And then a quarter of those companies have reported saving more than $75,000, which is insane. And then 90% of business leaders say ChatGPT experience is beneficial for job seekers. So probably something that they're hoping to see on resumes. So that's kind of where we're at today. It's a lot. But I think something a lot of people think about is, okay, how do I use it? How can ChatGPT help me? And it can be a little paralyzing at first. So I'm really curious, like how you both have used it, where you found success, and just kind of share it with folks who can kind of, get some ideas.
Yeah, I could go first just for
ahead,
some
Jeff.
of the easier examples. And then Eric, I'm more interested to hear how you're using it and building tools on top of this stuff. But from a personal perspective, probably a lot of people here have used it for recipes, grocery list planning based off those recipes, trip planning, all uses I use constantly for it, and it's amazing. Saves so much time. Small example, I'm going up to a family cabin this weekend. There's going to be about 10 or 12 people up there. I had no idea how much food to buy for that many people for burgers, breakfast. It broke everything down in less than 2 minutes and gave me a grocery list broken apart by what part of the grocery store this stuff will be found: produce, dairy, all the fun stuff. So super impressed with that. From a work perspective, like me personally using it, there's some cool uses. One of which I've been most interested in ChatGPT in particular. I've been asking it to help me review resumes and give feedback. And it's
Yeah.
actually really good at it. If you can write a really good prompt that's not just as simple as, hey, what's some feedback on this resume, and paste it in, I'll put a prompt in there like, you are an expert recruiter specializing in working with marketing leaders. Now, what about this specific resume would you give recommendations on to improve it? And then I would put it in there. And one small example of how impressed I was with this, like there was some stuff that I probably would have gave recommendations on, but there was one that really caught me off guard on how impressed I was. At the end of this marketing director's resume, they listed off a bunch of tools that they use. There's maybe like 20 or 30 of them. And they're all pretty common tools, but it's good to have that at the bottom of your resume for keyword. They gave the recommendation based on what those tools were. Hey, you should categorize these. Like, here's my email marketing tools. Here's my social media tools. Here's my paid search tools. And I was so blown away by that because it knew the kind of tools, knew what categories they were. And then it knew to get the recommendation to be easier to read if you categorize them. So like, that's just an example of writing a good prompt and come up with some good advice out of it. Other stuff I've used it for, I mean, summarizing articles, research has been huge.
Yeah.
What I don't really love it for is writing like emails or I do use it for getting started on some posts on LinkedIn, but I don't really love the tone, or usually like, I don't know. It doesn't always sound like a robot, but it just doesn't sound like me. So I usually end up rewriting more than 50-60% of it anyways, but it's good to go to 0 to 1. That's the way I kind of look at it. Erica, I'd rather hear from you on how you're using this stuff, and that video stuff just blows my mind. So
Yeah, it's wild. It's absolutely wild. I saw that Nicole in the comments said, how do you decide which AI platform is the best to go with? And I think I credit my friends over at Data Driven Rebel, Ilya. She's great with AI. She always uses the phrase, when you use AI, start as a scientist and figure out your use case first and then work backwards from that. Otherwise, it'll be absolutely paralyzing, right? So you have to figure out what you want from it first and then find the tool. And I know that we have some resources there, but Futurepedia is a great tool for AI. It's almost like a wiki for all the tools out there, and they're adding 20, 30 tools every single day. So you can just search for what you need and then it'll help you. But as far as ChatGPT specifically and how I'm using that, I would say that what we really need to remember is that ChatGPT is not Google, right? I think most of the people that I hear say like, oh, ChatGPT didn't work for me, I hated it. I asked it, it was like some random question that you could just Google, right?
Yeah.
ChatGPT is more of a conversation. And I think there's a lot of hype around prompts. People are selling prompts, right? And really what it dials down to is becoming just, you're in a conversation. That's a prompt. You just need to be specific about your conversation. Like I used ChatGPT to write some copy for me for a party that I had for the Kentucky Derby, right? And so I said, I need you to write an invitation for the Kentucky Derby. This is targeted at people ages 30 to 40. I want you to be a little bit sarcastic. I would like it to have the tone and style of a 1930s radio announcer. And so it's like, you just have to be super, super specific. Otherwise, you're right, John, you're just going to get back a little bit super formalized response because that's what it was trained on, right? Formal language. So, yeah.
I think a lot of us are just so used to that Google search. Like we're used to the like really simple question with like a few keywords, and then all of that like extra information that you talked about, like what kind of tone you wanted it in, what were the exact language, like that's all the stuff that we've just been used to like deducing ourselves, and like after we do some research figuring that out, but like getting that all out before, or even like iterating on the conversation as you're talking to ChatGPT like that, you can keep that conversation going. Yeah, like, oh, that's great, but like, what if, could you give that to me in a more casual tone, or could you make that longer or shorter?
Yeah,
I mean, it's endless.
With Google, we're used to just redoing the search if we didn't find exactly what we wanted. But to Erica's point, it's a conversation. Whatever they give you back, it's more of that. Okay, well, I liked that, but hey, maybe do it in more of a 1930s tone, or maybe be more witty with it. Like, so you can, it's really just molding it and thinking differently. So that was my biggest thing in the last few months, figuring out how to use the tool more and more, was having to retrain my brain really on what am I actually trying to get out of these tools.
Yeah, I think it's like if you're a good client for a creative, you're going to be great at prompts, right? Because you know how to communicate. That's the big thing.
I love that. We had a question
go ahead.
real quick from Amy. Any resources for prompt starters or ideas specifically for ChatGPT?
I got one quick, and then Erica, you probably got quite a few. One that I just loved, and I've shared it with so many people, is on LinkedIn Learning. There's this one, and we'll send it out after too. It's called How to Research and Write Using Generative AI Tools by Dave Burse. And he actually gives you prompt ideas on how to, and he has run agencies, ad agencies, creative agencies. So he actually walks you through how to do prompts on how to do research, strategy research, persona research, and how to get that into like an easy to digest form. What I love about his take is it's just a starting spot. It's not the end result that you're going to get out of this stuff, but it's really helpful at saving a ton of time on research gathering, pointing you in the right direction. That would be my biggest recommendation. He even has an acronym for writing prompts called CREATE. So C is kind of like the character. of what you want the prompt to look at the lens through. And then I'm not going to remember all the other ones. I could pull it up later, but I'll send it out in the chat or we'll follow up with it. But it just is a helpful way to think about like what you're asking it to do.
Absolutely. There's a really great resource out there. I saw it on YouTube the other day and now I'm blanking, but I'm sure if you just type it into a search engine, you'll be able to find it, where somebody actually just kind of reverse engineered the prompt process and had ChatGPT teach them the best way to prompt them. So if you just look up ChatGPT, teach me to prompt or something like that, I'm sure you'll find it. It was on YouTube. It was one of the big AI dudes out there, you know, that's teaching AI. So kind of interesting how it can teach you to do it as you go. And I think it's nice to just remember, once it gives you one answer, you're not done. Like you just said, John, it's not Google. So just hop back in and say, you know, what can I ask you to make this be more youthful in tone or whatever you need? Like ask it the question instead of just saying it out loud and being frustrated.
No, I think that's a great point. Ian in the chat said AI PRM is a great plugin.
Great.
So it's a Google Chrome extension. I haven't heard of that one, but I might try it.
Awesome. Very cool.
You know what? One thing we didn't hear yet from you, Erica, I just wanted to hear more about how you're using those tools for video editing and such, because I'm usually only in the chat world or the text world. I'd love to hear more about how you're using it on the video side of things.
Yeah. So one of my favorite tools right now that's still free, so use it while you can, is Adobe's Enhanced Speech tool. It's for podcasters, videographers, anyone using sound. Listen, I took sound classes in college. I almost was a radio major. I know a lot about audio editing, but this thing is unreal. You can put audio in it from no mic, just your like your desktop mic, right? That usually sounds so tinny and gross, and it'll make it sound like you are in the most high-end podcasting studio ever. And all you have to do is upload it, hit process, and then download it. It's so fast. It saved me probably $700 worth of audio editing time the other day when I got some footage from a client that they were on the wrong audio channel. It was so absolutely amazing. And I think I'd be remiss if we're talking about video to not talk about the tool that we're developing at Camcorder AI, which is not on the market yet, but we're looking to revolutionize, marketing and using video through marketing. Our first tool that's going to come out is going to be called Clipper. It'll be part of the bigger Camcorder AI umbrella. And what that'll do is sift through longer content, help you find a shorter piece to make a video, actually transcribe it for you, and do it super fast. So that'll be fun.
Very cool.
I love that. Corey had a question. I think Enhance, is that in the Creative Cloud?
You don't need to have any kind of membership to do it, Corey. If you just type into Google Adobe Podcast Speech Enhance, I believe it should let you just do it. I'm already logged into my into my Adobe Cloud when I do it, so I could be wrong there, but I believe the first time I used it, it was just in my browser.
Just there. Kind of a related question too, because you mentioned that Enhance is now free, but it might not always be free. What are your thoughts, both of your thoughts, on baking AI into your processes with maybe free tools that soon to be in the near future will become pay to play?
Yeah, John, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think you can go first. I mean, I guess the two comments I'll say beforehand on that is, I know internally at Celarity, we've been figuring out how to incorporate these tools more and more into our process. The hard part, I think, that we keep coming across is the changing landscape so quickly with these tools, and that now that they're being integrated with some of the tools we already have, Adobe obviously is going to be looking at this stuff, the Google Suite, Microsoft Suite. I mean, they're all starting to incorporate a lot of these tools into their products already. So it's almost it's almost like, do we want to build an entire process right now, or do we want to wait and see a little bit how these tools shake out? That's just kind of where we're at internally.
Yeah, I think that that's super valid. And what I think as far as like tools that are free now and they're going to become, paid, it's a lot like, let's compare it to social media management tools, right? I think there's always going to be the social media management tool that is more robust, that costs a lot of money. And there's always going to be the social media management tool that's the new kid on the block that's free. There's always people doing freemium or
Yeah.
high end. There's always something for everybody. So as long as you're learning the skill of using it, there's always going to be a tool to replace that paid tool that you're using, because the reality is how quickly things are developing right now. I mean, like I said, on Futurepedia, they're adding like 30 tools per day, which is wild, because that's not even all of them that are out there,
Yeah. So Wild West. For sure. Yeah. And like we were talking about before, I mean, it's a whole new skill set that we're all learning how to conversate with these tools, or how to use things that we're just so used to having taken a lot of people or a lot of manpower and hours. And so I think it's a really good sandbox to just get familiar in right now. And then I love that perspective, though, that there will always probably be free tools. They won't maybe have all of the bells and whistles that you're used to, but that probably is not going away.
Well, and also doing a cost analysis of like, if you're saving this much time with this tool, why wouldn't you? Because then your employee that you hired to actually do the real thing you want them to do, gets to concentrate on that instead of the admin thing that they've been having to do, right? So yeah.
And I know it's been helpful too, is picking out tools and processes, Jamie, is I know we try to look at our process, like kind of just taking a step back and kind of map it out a little bit. Because we've gone down the rabbit holes a few times of chasing the shiny new object. And then once we got into it for a few days, it's like, well, okay, this actually isn't saving us time. It's kind of making things a little more complicated. I'm thinking of the Zapier example, Jamie, because there's some simple tasks that this stuff is super good for. But then once you get into the gray area where human judgment comes in, sometimes it's just not saving time, unless we're talking about very large scale stuff.
Yeah.
But I saw an interesting question down there about examples of where using AI for content development has gone awry. Do you know of any, Erica? I can think of a couple things, but what have you
So the
seen?
first thing that I would say is, obviously the big buzz is around copyright, right? And I just talked to my intellectual property lawyer about AI the other day, and he brought up the fact that Getty is suing Stable Diffusion for using their millions of photos to train it on what to do. And the reason why they could prove that is because Getty watermarks every single photo, and their watermark was showing up in Stable Diffusion's generation, and not good, right? So especially for artists out there, you really need to start watermarking your stuff, because that's really going to help dissuade AI from ripping it off, right?
And if you're using that for your content that you're sending out too, I mean, that could come after you for using their photos.
Yeah.
Yep.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I almost think there's like two sides of the copyright conversation. There's like that implication of what AI was trained on, and a lot of it is likely copyrighted text, images, sound. I mean, everybody's probably heard of the Drake and Weeknd song. And that's even like a murky gray area. But then there's the flip side, and for marketers and creatives is a big thing that I think about a lot too, is the copyrightability of AI generated content. So I think, just as a rule of thumb, I mean, I don't think it's at the place now where I would ever feel comfortable just like writing a prompt, having like the output, and then just like sending it or using it. Like, that's not where it's at right now. But we are very cautious about using it in areas or places that we would want to hold a copyright, because that might negate that. And so, things like emails that nobody copyrights, like that's probably, a great use case. But yeah, like blog posts, websites. I mean, I don't know that I would recommend going just like full speed ahead with AI generated content at this point.
Well, yeah, and I heard from an event. I was at a local Minnesota search group event. One of the panelists had a law degree. She recommended that actually anything that you use AI to create is actually not copyrightable. So that's also something, like you were saying, Jamie, if you're using it to ideate things that you want to copyright, that's also murky area.
Yeah, my lawyer actually pointed out too that if you're looking to do something super legal like a contract, he said you're still better off sticking with Google because ChatGPT is like a language learning, software, and Google has actual resources from actual lawyers, whereas ChatGPT is going to take all these resources and kind of pool them. So you're getting from different kinds of contracts, right? And which might not apply to each type of vertical. And he's like, I actually typed in and tried to generate a contract the other day, and it was absolutely not accurate and would not have covered the person that was using it. So he's like, you're still better off just using Google in those cases. Yeah.
And that's kind of the danger, right, of where the stuff can go wrong. It's really good at creating content and creating things. But if you also don't know what good content is in that area, or you don't know, it's going to make things up, because the goal is to generate. It's not to be accurate. So that is a very good point, especially in the legal world. You might think it looks great because it sounds very legally, and if I'm not a lawyer, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that sounds great. And then lo and behold, it's like, oh, this was written for something not at all what I thought it was.
100%. And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't also mention the fact that AI is learning from our learned behaviors online and everything that's already been input, which means AI can be inherently biased, racist, fatphobic, all those things. I mean, I typed into Canva the other day, happy fat woman, and it absolutely would not give me a text generated image. It kept saying like unsafe search, except if I type in happy thin woman, totally fine. I think that a really good book about that is Algorithms of Oppression, because you're also going to be getting, skewed results that's showing racial bias as well. And so we need to think about that, especially for you all, right? When in your hiring process, like sometimes the machine is not biased. Most of the time it's not unbiased,
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I know even from a hiring perspective, Erica, it's interesting you bring that up. Like, there's already a lot of frustration from people job searching out there about the whole applicant tracking system keyword bias. Like, that's already, like, it ranks people. Some people don't even get reviewed based on how the resumes are, even then they're very well qualified. And I know that some companies are using chat bots as a part of the interview process. And that is another area potentially of bias. If people aren't answering questions correctly. It might be a good use case for some more simple roles, but when you get into more complex roles, you just need human oversight to know to overcome some of those biases. So it's actually like, it's a murky area in the HR world. It's if you're screening candidates and using them to make decisions, that's murky. But where I think it's very beneficial, job description writing for the most part. But again, having to review the copy to make sure that there's not, biased stuff within the copy. But that's a big one. This is job description writing alone. It saves a lot of time.
Lots of time.
Yeah. I saw that. I think the Equal Opportunity Employment Committee released like some sort of statement, I think in the last week, where they're like, just FYI, we're keeping a very close eye on employers who are using AI tools in their hiring, in their job performance process, or, that sort of thing. So just, to all the HR folks out there, that they have their eyes on it. It's, nothing's happening under the radar.
Yeah. And, one other interesting use case in the HR side, I saw that, is probably a good use of it, is you can train these tools on your own documents. It doesn't just have to be open. And there's a lot of tools out there where you can feed and point it at what your company's internal documents are. A great use case I saw for that is even just benefit administration, questions on your benefits to see if like you're using your benefits fully. how your healthcare coverage should be, how you should select your healthcare coverage based on your situation. There's a lot of interesting things around that could save a lot of HR people a lot of time from answering common questions with documents that are there and the information's there. It's just not as accessible to like go dig through and read through 50 pages of healthcare documents, because I know nobody wants to do that. But yeah, there's some interesting stuff there too. That's a good use of it.
Yeah, I heard something recently that if your company's customer experience doesn't like 10x in the next like year or two, that you're missing the boat. Like, this is such a great tool. I mean, that's one example, but there are probably so many. I think we'll see a lot more of that. I'm excited when, as we get to use it. But yeah, completely.
There's
Awesome.
one good comment I saw real quick. Someone said, I believe that Google and ChatGPT serve different purposes, even if they have overlapping features. Erica, do you want to touch on that at all? Just kind of what you're seeing for different use cases. I know Bard is the big competitor, right, of ChatGPT, and it's kind of the ones people probably hear the most about.
Sure. I think in this case, it seems like Herma was talking about just Google as the search engine, right? Like, is very different than ChatGPT, and the ChatGPT is a conversation and can help that way. Google is going to give you a ton of results. I don't know. Personally, I feel like, as someone who has ADHD, I am loving ChatGPT because it doesn't give me this list of 300 pages of options and these rabbit holes to come down. It's also, for anyone out there with imposter syndrome, it helped me validate myself the other day when I was feeling some imposter syndrome, right, over a new service that I'm going to be offering through my business. I said, I've been thinking about offering media training. Am I qualified to offer media training? And then it asked me, my resume, basically asked me the type of workshops that I already give. And it was like, you are absolutely qualified to do media training. And I was like, oh my gosh, great. And then, of course, I didn't stop there. I called a friend of mine who's done media training, and she was like, yeah, I was just waiting for you to decide to do that. Like, that makes total sense for you to do it. So, but it was really interesting to get that kind of feedback. And I really think it's actually going to help in the education space too, for children that have absent parents that have to be working all the time, that can't help them with homework. Like, that's going to be really amazing as well. Yeah.
That story, Erica, kind of reminded me of some other stuff too. Internally, some of our recruiters have been using ChatGPT. So even like they have a candidate and they need to qualify them for a role. They've asked, what kind of questions can I ask somebody to know about their SQL experience? And it gave like some good examples to use. And then on the flip side of that, if you're interviewing for a role, you can even ask it like, hey, like basic example of what you were doing with it. It's, I'm interviewing for, a Marcom role. What are some common interview questions I might run into? And then they'll give it to you, and then you can answer and say, is this a good answer for this question? Is this like, that's coaching. And it's actually pretty good at that stuff.
Yeah.
Love that.
I love that.
Love that.
Well, we are coming up on 35 minutes, which I kind of had a sneaky suspicion we might be, but I want to be mindful of everybody's lunch hour and get out if you are enjoying the sunshine like we are here in the Twin Cities area. That I don't want to take up any more of that time, but so any final thoughts before we hop off, John, Erica, about all the things we've talked about or anything we didn't get to?
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I'm just going to steal a line from, I think I've heard 4 or 5 other people say this now. ChatGPT and all these AI tools, I don't believe they're going to be taking anyone's jobs anytime soon, but they will be taking the people's jobs that are not using these tools. So I almost equate it to like just knowing Microsoft Office Suite at this point. Like, I think you just got to get familiar and start learning it. And the tools may change, but you just have to be curious and keep learning. And it's like a time saver, but I don't think it's going to be replacing any roles anytime soon. It's just not there as far as like, just getting stuff you can immediately use. You still need that human decision-making judgment that's just kind of missing, especially in complex tasks and that gray area that we talked about.
Yeah, I think the last thing I would say is use AI to do the things you flippin' hate to do. Like do that so that you can concentrate more on what you love, more on what you're passionate about, more of the things that take your brain space, so that your brain space isn't being taken up by those administrative things or the things that can be automated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if anyone's interested, I'm going to be doing 30 AI reviews in 30 days over on my Instagram account. 60-second reviews. So they're just going to be super top line, so that if you know if you want to try something or not. So
And
yay.
what's your
Love that.
Instagram handle so people can
Yeah,
find you?
I'm over at Puke Rainbows Video. Would be the easiest one to find me.
Easy.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah. And I think my last thoughts too is, I mean, I always learn so many new things having conversations like this. I know we have an AI lunch at work that I really love. And I really encourage everyone on here to reach out to us. I would love to keep the conversation going. We plan to do another event here in about a month. And just kind of taking this dive a little bit deeper. So y'all be the first to know when we have more information on that, but we're really jazzed. And yeah, thank you for taking time out of your day, and especially you two, John and Erica. This was a blast. And have a fabulous Thursday, everybody.
Yeah, and I hope to see everybody signed up on the Camcorder AI beta list. That would be super amazing. So it's just get.camcorder.ai. So
yes, and we will link that in the comments after we wrap. Yeah.
Yeah, look for the comments on everything we were talking about. We had someone writing down all the resources and everything, so we'll have it easy to follow, easy to find all of this stuff, and to get in touch with Erica. You should. She's amazing. Thanks for your time, Erica. I really appreciate you joining us.
I love you both. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.